The late autumn sun cast long shadows across the pristine lawn of the Mendonça estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, where 12-year-old Clara sat perched on her favorite oak tree branch, watching her 3-year-old brother Miguel chase butterflies in the garden below. Her heart swelled with affection as he stumbled, giggled, and pushed himself back up, his dark curls bouncing with each determined step. "Be careful, Miguel," she called out, even though she knew he was perfectly safe on the soft grass. The little boy looked up at her with those big brown eyes that never failed to melt her heart, waving enthusiastically. "Clara, come play," he shouted, his childish voice carrying across the manicured landscape. She was about to climb down when she heard the familiar click of heels against marble flooring, coming from the open terrace doors. Elisa, her father's girlfriend, emerged wearing one of her signature designer outfits, phone pressed firmly against her ear. Clara instinctively remained still, something about Elisa's furtive glances making her pause. "No, you don't understand," Elisa whispered harshly into the phone, pacing the terrace. "Leonardo can never know the truth about Miguel. I've worked too hard to get where I am." Clara's breath caught in her throat. The words hit her like a physical blow, making her grip the rough bark beneath her fingers more tightly. "Of course, I'm sure he doesn't suspect anything," Elisa continued, her voice dropping even lower. "He believes Miguel is his son completely. Why wouldn't he? The timing worked out perfectly." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Clara processed what she was hearing. Miguel, her beloved little brother, wasn't her father's son? The very foundation of their family life for the past 3 years suddenly felt like quicksand beneath her feet. "I have to go," Elisa said abruptly, noticing Miguel approaching the terrace. Her voice instantly transformed into the honey-sweet tone she typically used around the family. "Come here, sweetheart, time for your afternoon snack." Clara watched as Miguel ran to Elisa, who scooped him up with practiced ease. The sight that had once seemed so natural now felt like a carefully orchestrated performance. Her stomach churned with the weight of this new knowledge. Later that evening, Clara sat at the massive dining room table, pushing her food around her plate while her father, Leonardo, discussed his latest business merger. He looked happier than he had in years, his face animated as he described the deal's success. The grief that had haunted him since her mother Mariana's death 4 years ago had finally begun to fade, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and joy. "Clara, honey, you've barely touched your dinner," Leonardo observed, his dark eyes crinkling with concern. "Are you feeling all right?" She forced a smile, trying to act normal despite the tornado of thoughts whirling through her mind. "I'm fine, Dad. Just tired from soccer practice." Elisa reached across the table, her perfectly manicured hand touching Leonardo's arm in a gesture of concern that now seemed calculated to Clara. Maybe she should skip practice tomorrow if she's not feeling well. "No," Clara said too quickly, earning surprised looks from both adults. "I mean, I'm fine, really. The championship game is coming up and I can't miss practice." Leonardo nodded proudly. "That's my girl, always dedicated." Clara caught Elisa's slight frown before it smoothed into her usual pleasant expression. How had she never noticed these subtle shifts before? The way Elisa constantly positioned herself between Clara and her father, the careful manipulation of every situation to maintain control. "May I be excused?" Clara asked, unable to bear another minute of pretending everything was normal. "I have a lot of homework." "Of course, sweetheart," Leonardo replied. "Don't stay up too late." As Clara climbed the curved staircase to her room, she heard Miguel's laughter floating up from the family room where he played with his trains. The sound that usually brought her joy now filled her with an aching sadness. What would happen to him when the truth came out? Because it had to come out, didn't it? In her room, Clara sat at her desk, opening her laptop but unable to focus on her homework. Instead, her mind raced through memories of the past 3 years, examining them in a new light. The way Elisa had appeared in their lives shortly after her mother's death, first as her father's executive assistant, then gradually becoming more. The convenient announcement of her pregnancy, just as Leonardo had begun to emerge from his grief. The way she had orchestrated every major family decision since then. Clara's eyes drifted to the photo on her desk, her mother Mariana's smiling face captured in mid-laugh during their last family vacation. "What would you do, Mom?" she whispered, touching the frame gently. "How do I protect Dad and Miguel without destroying everything?" A soft knock at her door startled her from her thoughts. "Clara?" Leonardo's voice called out. "Can I come in?" "Sure, Dad," she answered, quickly opening her textbook to appear busy. Leonardo entered, sitting on the edge of her bed. In the warm lamplight, Clara could see the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, new lines around his eyes that spoke of both joy and sorrow. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" The words she needed to say burned in her throat, but fear held them back. What if he didn't believe her? What if telling him destroyed the happiness he'd finally found? What if it meant losing Miguel? "I know, Dad," she managed instead, hating herself a little for the lie. "I'm just stressed about school and soccer, nothing major." Leonardo studied her face for a moment longer, and Clara wondered if he could see the truth hiding behind her eyes. Finally, he nodded and stood, dropping a kiss on top of her head. "Get some rest, sweetheart. Things always look better in the morning." As her father's footsteps faded down the hallway, Clara turned back to her mother's photograph. "I'll figure this out, Mom," she promised quietly. "I'll find a way to protect them both." Outside her window, the autumn wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the weight of secrets and the promise of change. Clara knew that from this moment forward, nothing would ever be the same. The truth she'd discovered would either strengthen their family or tear it apart completely. The responsibility of that knowledge settled heavily on her young shoulders as she began to plan her next move, determined to uncover the full extent of Elisa's deception before confronting her father with the truth that would shatter their carefully constructed world. The following week unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance, with Clara watching Elisa's every move through new eyes. Each morning brought fresh observations that only deepened her suspicions. During breakfast, she noticed how Elisa expertly deflected Leonardo's casual questions about her past, steering conversations toward future plans or Miguel's latest achievements. "Remember that time Miguel said his first word?" Leonardo reminisced one morning, pouring his coffee. "He looked just like me, scrunching up his face before saying Dada." Elisa's smile flickered for just a moment before stabilizing. "He certainly takes after you in so many ways," she replied smoothly, but Clara caught the subtle tension in her shoulders. Clara spent her days at Greenwich Academy trying to focus on her classes, but her mind constantly wandered to the weight of the secret she carried. During lunch period, she sat alone in the school library, researching on her laptop instead of joining her friends in the cafeteria. "DNA testing," she typed into the search bar, then quickly cleared it. The thought of actually proving her suspicions made her stomach churn. What would such proof do to her father? To Miguel? After school, Clara lingered at soccer practice longer than necessary, dreading the return home where she'd have to maintain her facade of normalcy. Coach Richards noticed her distraction during drills. "Everything okay, Mendonça?" he asked, as she repeatedly missed shots she usually made effortlessly. "You seem off your game today." Clara adjusted her ponytail, buying time to compose herself. "Just tired, Coach. I'll do better." The real challenge came during family dinners, where every interaction felt loaded with hidden meaning. Clara watched as Elisa masterfully wove herself deeper into their lives, making herself indispensable to Leonardo's daily routine. "I've rescheduled your board meeting for Thursday," Elisa mentioned casually over dinner. "The London office preferred that timing, and I know how important this merger is." Leonardo beamed at her. "What would I do without you?" "Probably miss half your meetings," Elisa teased, but Clara heard the calculated note of self-satisfaction in her voice. One evening, while helping Miguel with his bath, Clara felt the full weight of her dilemma. The little boy splashed happily in the bubbles, creating elaborate stories with his rubber ducks. "Look, Clara, this one's swimming to save his family," Miguel declared, making one duck rescue another. Clara's throat tightened. "That's very brave of him," she managed, watching her brother's innocent play. The bond between them felt more precious and fragile than ever. Later that night, unable to sleep, Clara crept downstairs for a glass of water. Voices from her father's home office made her pause in the darkened hallway. "I'm thinking of proposing," Leonardo was saying to someone on the phone. "It's time to make it official, don't you think?" Clara's heart dropped to her stomach. She pressed herself against the wall, straining to hear more. "Yes, I know it's only been 3 years since Mariana," Leonardo continued, his voice softening at the mention of Clara's mother. "But Miguel needs stability, and Clara, well, she could use a mother figure in her life." Fighting back tears, Clara fled silently back to her room. The idea of Elisa permanently replacing her mother, especially now that she knew the truth about Miguel, felt like a betrayal of everything sacred in their family. The next morning, Elisa cornered Clara in the kitchen before school. "Your father mentioned you've seemed distant lately," she said, her tone carefully concerned. "Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" Clara met Elisa's gaze steadily, noting the calculating look behind the warm smile. "Actually, yes," she replied, gathering her courage. "I've been wondering about Miguel's birth certificate." The color drained from Elisa's face for a split second before she recovered. "His birth certificate? Why would you be interested in that?" "School project," Clara lied smoothly. "We're doing family trees. I need everyone's birth certificates." Elisa's laugh held a brittle edge. "Oh, sweetheart, you don't need to bother with all that paperwork. I'm sure your teacher would be happy with just the basic information." "But Dad always says documentation is important," Clara pressed, watching Elisa's composure crack slightly. "He keeps all our important papers in his office safe, right?" "Clara," Elisa's voice dropped to a warning whisper, "some things are better left alone, for everyone's sake." The threat was clear, but Clara stood her ground. "Like phone conversations about Miguel not being Dad's son?" The coffee mug in Elisa's hand clattered against the counter. For a long moment, the two stared at each other, the pretense of familial affection completely stripped away. "You don't know what you're talking about," Elisa finally said, her voice ice cold. "And if you care about your father's happiness, about Miguel's future, you'll keep your imagination to yourself." "Is everything okay in here?" Leonardo's voice made them both jump. He stood in the doorway, Miguel balanced on his hip, looking between them with concern. "Perfect," Elisa chirped, instantly transforming back into the perfect girlfriend. "I was just offering to help Clara with a school project." Clara grabbed her backpack, unable to bear another minute of the charade. "I'll take the bus today," she announced, hurrying past her father before he could offer to drive her. The autumn air bit at her cheeks as she walked to the bus stop, her mind racing. Elisa's reaction had confirmed everything, but it had also shown how dangerous confronting her could be. She needed proof, something concrete that her father couldn't ignore or explain away. On the bus, Clara pulled out her phone and opened her contact list. Her finger hovered over the name of her mother's best friend, Rebecca Chen, who had remained close to the family even after Mariana's death. If anyone would help her uncover the truth without immediately alerting her father, it would be Rebecca. "We need to talk," Clara typed. "It's about Miguel and Elisa. Please don't tell Dad." The response came almost immediately. "Come to my office after school, just you." Clara stared out the bus window at the passing mansions of Greenwich, each one probably housing its own secrets and lies. But none of those mattered. Only her family's truth, and how to expose it without destroying everything she loved, occupied her thoughts. In her classroom, Clara barely registered her teacher's voice as she planned her next moves. She would need more than just suspicions to convince her father. She needed evidence, witnesses, documentation. Most of all, she needed to find a way to protect Miguel from the fallout that was surely coming. The weight of adult decisions pressed down on her 12-year-old shoulders, but Clara squared them with determination. Her mother had always told her that truth and love were the most powerful forces in the world. Now she would have to prove it, even if it meant risking everything she held dear. Rebecca Chen's law office occupied the top floor of a sleek building in downtown Greenwich. its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Long Island Sound. Clara sat in one of the plush leather chairs, her backpack clutched tightly in her lap, while her mother's best friend studied her from behind an imposing mahogany desk. "Start from the beginning," Rebecca said, her sharp eyes softening with concern. "Tell me exactly what you heard." Clara recounted the phone conversation she'd overheard, her confrontation with Elisa, and her father's plans to propose. As she spoke, Rebecca took careful notes, her expression growing increasingly troubled. "I always knew something was off about her," Rebecca muttered, more to herself than to Clara. "Your mother would have seen right through her." The mention of her mother made Clara's throat tight. "Did Mom ever say anything about Elisa? Before?" "Your mother met Elisa only once at a company Christmas party," Rebecca revealed, leaning back in her chair. "She told me afterward that Leonardo's new assistant seemed too interested in him for someone who'd just started working there." Clara leaned forward eagerly. "What else did Mom say?" "Not much else. She passed away 2 months later." Rebecca's voice caught slightly. "But I've been watching Elisa since she miraculously announced her pregnancy right when Leonardo was most vulnerable." Opening her laptop, Rebecca pulled up several documents. "I did some preliminary digging after you texted. Elisa Foster isn't her real name, at least not her original one. She's changed it twice in the past decade." Clara's eyes widened. "Does Dad know?" "Your father was too grief-stricken to question anything when Elisa came into his life," Rebecca said gently, "and she's very good at what she does. I've seen her type before in my practice. They target wealthy, emotionally vulnerable men. But Miguel—" Clara started, then stopped, the implications hitting her. Rebecca nodded grimly. "If what you overheard is true, she used that innocent child to secure her position. The timing of her pregnancy announcement was suspicious, just when Leonardo had started showing interest in dating again." The autumn sun was setting outside the office windows, casting long shadows across the carpet. Clara watched them stretch and distort, much like the truth she was uncovering. "I need your help," Clara said finally. "I can't prove any of this on my own, and Dad won't believe me without evidence." Rebecca was already reaching for her phone. "I have a private investigator I trust. He can look into Elisa's background, find out where she really came from, and maybe even locate Miguel's biological father." "No," Clara exclaimed, surprising them both with her vehemence. "I mean, yes. To investigating Elisa, but Miguel's father? What if he tries to take Miguel away?" Rebecca's expression softened. "You really love your little brother, don't you?" "He is my brother," Clara insisted fiercely. "It doesn't matter who his biological father is." "You sound just like your mother." Rebecca smiled sadly. She had such a strong sense of justice but also of compassion. A knock at the office door interrupted them. Rebecca's assistant poked her head in. "Ms. Chen, your next appointment is here." Rebecca nodded, then turned back to Clara. "Give me a few days to gather information. In the meantime, act normal around Elisa. Don't let her suspect we're investigating." On the drive home, Rebecca's words tumbled through Clara's mind. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, reminding her of evenings spent watching sunsets with her mother. What would Mariana think of all this? Clara's phone buzzed with a text from Leonardo. "Where are you?" "Dinner's almost ready." "On my way." "Was studying at the library," she typed back, the lie leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. When Rebecca's car pulled up to the Mendonça estate, Clara saw Miguel playing in the front yard with his nanny, Louise. The sight of him running around with his toy airplane made her heart ache. "Remember," Rebecca said as Clara gathered her things, "be careful what you say around Elisa. She's clearly desperate to keep her secret." Inside the house, the smell of Elisa's signature lasagna filled the air. Clara found her father in his study reviewing documents. "Hey, sweetheart," Leonardo looked up with a smile. "Good study session?" Clara nodded, unable to meet his eyes. In the kitchen, she heard Elisa humming as she prepared dinner, playing the role of perfect homemaker. "Actually, Dad," Clara began hesitantly, "can we talk about something?" Leonardo set down his papers, giving her his full attention. Of course, what's on your mind? Before Clara could continue, Elisa's voice rang out from the doorway. Dinner's ready. Leo, could you help me with the wine? The moment was lost. Clara watched. Her father follow Elisa to the kitchen, his hand naturally finding the small of her back. The gesture, once seemingly innocent, now appeared to Clara as another piece of Elisa's calculated performance. During dinner, Clara pushed her food around her plate, her appetite gone. She watched Elisa carefully cutting up Miguel's portion into child-sized bites, noting how her hands trembled slightly whenever Leonardo mentioned the future. I was thinking we could take a family vacation over Christmas, Leonardo announced. Maybe somewhere warm, like Hawaii. That sounds wonderful, Elisa gushed, but Clara caught the flash of panic in her eyes. Although, Miguel might be too young for such a long flight. He did fine when we flew to Florida last year, Clara pointed out, unable to resist the small challenge. Elisa's fork clattered against her plate. That was different. He's in a more difficult phase now. We can discuss the details later, Leonardo said smoothly, clearly missing the tension between them. After dinner, Clara helped with the dishes, deliberately taking her time. When Leonardo went to put Miguel to bed, she finally had a moment alone with Elisa. I know what you're doing, Elisa said quietly, aggressively scrubbing a pot. You think you can drive a wedge between your father and me? I think the truth will do that all on its own, Clara replied, matching her quiet tone. Elisa set down the pot with controlled precision. You have no idea what the truth would do to this family. To Miguel. Are you ready to destroy your father's happiness? To tear apart the only world your brother has ever known? The words hit Clara like physical blows, but she stood her ground. You're the one who built everything on lies. I built a family, Elisa hissed. I gave your father hope when he was drowning in grief. I gave Miguel a father who loves him. What have you done except try to ruin it all? Footsteps on the stairs made them both fall silent. Leonardo appeared in the kitchen smiling. Miguel's asking for his big sister to read him a bedtime story. Clara fled upstairs, grateful for the escape. In Miguel's room, surrounded by his stuffed animals and nightlights, she could almost pretend everything was normal. Read the one about the lost puppy, Miguel requested sleepily, curling into her side. As Clara read, her voice steady despite her churning emotions, she made a decision. Rebecca was right. They needed proof of Elisa's deception. But they also needed a plan for what would happen after the truth came out. Because Elisa was right about one thing. The truth would change everything. Later that night, Clara lay awake in her bed, her laptop open to a private message from Rebecca. Found something. Meet me tomorrow after school. Bring your father's old photos of Elisa if you can find any. Clara stared at the message, her heart pounding. Whatever Rebecca had discovered, there would be no turning back once she knew. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on her, but she thought of Miguel's innocent face, of her father's trusting nature, of her mother's belief in truth and justice. Tomorrow would bring them one step closer to unraveling Elisa's carefully constructed lies. Clara only hoped their family would survive the fallout. The next afternoon, Clara sat in Rebecca's office again, this time surrounded by scattered photographs and documents. Her hands trembled as she held up an old newspaper clipping from Phoenix, Arizona, dated 5 years ago. The grainy photo showed a younger Elisa, then known as Elizabeth Winters, standing next to another wealthy businessman at a charity gala. She's done this before, Rebecca said quietly, spreading out more evidence across her desk. 3 times, to be exact. Each time she got close to a wealthy, vulnerable man. Each time there was a child involved. Clara's stomach lurched. What happened to the other children? Rebecca pulled up several files on her laptop. The first time in Phoenix, she claimed pregnancy, but conveniently lost the baby once. She'd secured a significant settlement. The second time in Boston, she actually had a child, a little girl, but left her with the father when a better opportunity came along. She abandoned her own daughter? Clara whispered, horrified. According to my investigator, the girl is living happily with her father and stepmother in Massachusetts. Rebecca paused, studying Clara's reaction. But Miguel's case is different. He's not the biological child of any of the men she targeted. Clara leaned forward. What do you mean? Miguel was born in a small hospital in Nevada, Rebecca explained, pulling up a birth certificate. His original birth certificate lists his mother as Elizabeth Foster, one of Elisa's aliases, but the father's section is blank. 3 months later, a new birth certificate appeared in Connecticut, listing Leonardo as the father. The implications hit Clara like a physical blow. She falsified his birth certificate? It gets worse, Rebecca continued grimly. 2 weeks before Miguel was born, Elisa was working as an assistant to Richard Carlton, a real estate developer in Las Vegas. She'd been positioning herself to become his wife, but something went wrong. She disappeared overnight only to resurface here in Greenwich 3 months later. Clara's mind raced. That's when she started working for Dad. Exactly. And within 6 months, she announced her pregnancy with Miguel, who was already 3 months old at the time. Rebecca's expression hardened. She's not just a con artist, Clara. She's committed serious fraud. The weight of this information pressed down on Clara's chest. We have to tell Dad. We will, Rebecca assured her, but we need to be strategic. Elisa's proven she'll do anything to maintain her position. If we confront her without proper preparation, she might run and take Miguel with her. The thought of losing Miguel made Clara feel physically ill. What do we do? First, we secure copies of all this. Evidence in multiple safe places, Rebecca said, her lawyer instincts taking over. Then A knock at the door interrupted them. Rebecca's assistant burst in looking panicked. Ms. Chen, Mrs. Foster is here. She's demanding to see you. Clara's blood ran cold. Through the glass walls of Rebecca's office, she could see Elisa in the reception area, her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled, her eyes wild. Hide these, Rebecca commanded, quickly gathering the documents. Clara, take your backpack and go into my private bathroom. Don't make a sound. Clara slipped into the bathroom just as she heard Elisa's voice in the office. Through the door, their voices came in muffled but clear enough. I know she's been coming to see you, Elisa was saying, her voice trembling with barely controlled rage. What lies has she been telling you? If you're referring to Clara, yes, she came to me. With concerns, Rebecca replied coolly. As her mother's best friend and the family's lawyer, I'm obligated to investigate those concerns. You have no right. Elisa's voice rose. You're interfering in private family matters. Actually, I have every right, Rebecca countered. I have a fiduciary duty to protect Leonardo's interests, and his children's. A sharp laugh from Elisa. His children? Is that what this is about? You think you're protecting them? I think the truth has a way of coming out, Mrs. Foster. Or should I say, Ms. Winters? Or perhaps you prefer Elizabeth Manning from your time in Boston? The silence that followed was deafening. When Elisa spoke again, her voice had dropped to a dangerous whisper. You don't know what you're dealing with. On the contrary, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. The question is, do you? Because right now, you're looking at multiple counts of fraud, not to mention potential criminal charges for falsifying government documents. Clara heard the sound of a chair scraping across the floor. You're bluffing. Would you like to test that theory? Rebecca's voice remained steady. I have copies of every identity you've created, every man you've targeted, every child you've used as a pawn, including your daughter in Boston. She's better off without me, Elisa snapped. They all are. I give these men what they want, a chance to play hero, to save the damsel in distress and her innocent child. Everyone gets what they want. Except the children, Rebecca said quietly. What about them, Elisa? What about Miguel? A sharp intake of breath. Miguel is happy. Leonardo loves him. Clara loves him. Isn't that what matters? What matters is the truth, Rebecca replied. Leonardo deserves to know. Miguel deserves to know his real history, even if that knowledge is painful. You'll destroy everything. Elisa's voice cracked. Is that what Mariana would have wanted? Her family torn apart? Don't you dare speak her name. Rebecca's voice turned to ice. Mariana valued truth above all else. She would never have allowed her family to live a lie. The sound of heels clicking across the floor. This isn't over. No, Rebecca agreed. It's just beginning. I suggest you think very carefully about your next move, Mrs. Foster, because I promise you running isn't an option this time. The office door slammed. Clara counted to 30 before emerging from the bathroom, her heart pounding. She knows, Clara whispered. Rebecca nodded grimly. Yes, and that makes her dangerous. We need to move quickly now. She picked up her phone. I'm calling your father. He needs to hear this today before Elisa has a chance to spin her own version. Clara sank into a chair, her mind spinning. What about Miguel? I've already filed emergency paperwork with the family court, Rebecca revealed. If Elisa tries to run with him, she'll be stopped at any airport or state line. As Rebecca dialed Leonardo's number, Clara stared out at the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, her mother was watching over them. She had to believe they were doing the right thing, even if it meant shattering the fragile happiness their family had built. Leonardo, we need to meet. Tonight. It's about Elisa and Miguel. Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. Yes, Clara's here with me. No, she's safe. But there are things you need to know. Clara closed her eyes, sending up a silent prayer. By tomorrow, their family's world would be forever changed. She only hoped they were strong enough to survive what was coming. The grandfather clock in Leonardo's study struck 8 as Rebecca laid out the evidence on his mahogany desk. Clara sat in the corner, watching her father's face as he absorbed each devastating revelation. Outside, rain began to fall, droplets casting shifting shadows across the room's dark wood paneling. These are the original birth certificates, Rebecca explained gently, placing the documents side by side. As you can see, Miguel was born 3 months before Elisa claims, and your name wasn't on the first one. Leonardo's hands shook as he compared the certificates. His face had grown increasingly pale as Rebecca had methodically presented Elisa's history. The multiple identities, the pattern of deception, the abandoned daughter in Boston. Now, confronted with irrefutable proof about Miguel, he seemed to physically deflate. Why? He whispered, more to himself than to them. Why would she? Because you were perfect, Clara spoke up from her corner. Rich, grieving, lonely, just like the others. Leonardo's head snapped up, his eyes meeting, his daughter's. The pain she saw there made her want to take back her words, but they both knew she was right. The others? He repeated hollowly. How many? 3 that we know of, Rebecca answered, her voice professional but kind. Richard Carlton in Las Vegas was the last, right before she came here. She disappeared from his life when she was already pregnant with Miguel. Leonardo pushed back from his desk abruptly, standing to pace the room. Miguel, he said, his voice cracking. My son. Not my son. Dad, Clara rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. He is your son, maybe not by blood, but in every way that matters. Leonardo's arms encircled her automatically, but his mind seemed far away. I should have known, he muttered. All those times she avoided questions about the pregnancy, about her past. I was so caught up in the idea of a second chance at happiness. She's very good at what she does, Rebecca interjected. She's had years of practice manipulating vulnerable men. Don't blame yourself, Leo. A sharp knock at the study door made them all jump. Elisa's voice came through, tight with controlled panic. Leo, why is your car still at the office? The nanny said you came home hours ago. Leonardo stiffened, his arms tightening around Clara. Rebecca quickly gathered the documents, sliding them into her briefcase. Don't open it, she warned in a whisper. We need to finish this conversation. Leo? Elisa called again, more insistent. I can see the light under the door. What's going on? Leonardo gently disentangled himself from Clara, squaring his shoulders. I have to face her, he said quietly. I need to hear her try to explain this. Before Rebecca could protest, he strode to the door and yanked it open. Elisa stood there in her designer dress, perfect makeup slightly smeared from the rain, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Rebecca's briefcase, Clara's defensive posture, Leonardo's devastated expression. What is she doing here? Elisa demanded, pointing at Rebecca. Leo, whatever she's told you. Is it true? Leonardo cut her off, his voice dangerously quiet. Is Miguel my son? The color drained from Elisa's face. For a moment she seemed to consider lying, but something in Leonardo's expression must have told her it was pointless. He's yours in every way that matters, she said finally, echoing Clara's words, but with a desperate edge. You love him. He loves you. Isn't that enough? Enough? Leonardo's laugh was bitter. You used an innocent child to con your way into my life. You've been lying to me from the moment we met. Was anything real? Elisa took a step forward, reaching for him. My love for you is real. My love for our family. Don't, Leonardo recoiled from her touch. Don't call us that. We're not a family. We're your latest mark. That's not true. Elisa's composure cracked. Yes, I came here with a plan. Yes, I used Miguel. But what we built together, what we could still have, that's real? Real? Rebecca interjected coldly. Like what you built with Richard Carlton or David Manning in Boston? Should we call them Ask How Real It Felt When You Disappeared with Their Money and Hopes? Elisa whirled on her. You did this. You and that meddling child. She pointed at Clara. We were happy until you started digging up the past. We were living a lie, Clara shot back, finding her voice. And Miguel deserves better than that. At the mention of Miguel's name, Elisa seemed to deflate. He's asleep upstairs, she said quietly. Peaceful, safe, loved. Are you really going to destroy that? Leonardo moved to stand between Elisa and the staircase. If you think I'm letting you anywhere near him right now, he's my son. Elisa's voice rose hysterically. You can't keep him from me. Actually, he can. Rebecca stepped forward, producing another document. I've already filed for an emergency custody order, given the evidence of your fraud and history of abandoning children. No judge will let you take Miguel anywhere. Elisa's face contorted with rage and fear. You can't do this. I won't let you take him from me. She turned to flee toward the stairs, but Leonardo caught her arm. It's over, Elisa. No, more running, no more lies. You don't understand, she struggled in his grip. I did it for him. Every time, every man, every lie. It was all to give him a better life. By building that life on lies? Leonardo's voice broke. By using him as a prop in your cons? What happens when he's old enough to understand what you did? Elisa sagged in his grip, tears finally breaking through her perfect mask. I love him, she whispered. I know you don't believe anything I say anymore, but I do love him. And you. And even Clara. If you love us, Clara said softly, tell us the truth. All of it. Miguel deserves to know where he came from. For a long moment, only the sound of rain filled the study. Then Elisa straightened, wiping her eyes with deliberate care. His father was a man I met in California, she began, her voice hollow. A nobody with big dreams and empty pockets. When I got pregnant, he wanted nothing to do with us. I promised myself then that my child would have everything. Money, status, a real family. So I created one. By stealing other people's dreams, a family? Leonardo asked bitterly. By making them love a child you were planning to take away? By giving him a father who could provide the life he deserves, Elisa countered. You're twice the father his biological father could ever be. That wasn't your choice to make, Rebecca interjected. You played with people's lives, their Hearts. A small voice from the doorway stopped them all cold. Mommy, why is everyone yelling? They turned to find Miguel standing there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his favorite stuffed bear. His big brown eyes were wide with confusion and fear. The sight of him, innocent, unknowing, caught in the web of adult deceptions, seemed to break something in all of them. Elisa let out a choked sob. Leonardo's face crumpled. Clara rushed to her brother kneeling before him. Everything's okay, buddy, she soothed, pulling him into a hug. We're just having a grown-up talk. Over Miguel's head, she met her father's anguished gaze. In that moment, she knew they were thinking the same thing. How do you protect a child from a truth that could shatter his world? As if reading their thoughts, Rebecca spoke quietly but firmly. It's late. Miguel needs to sleep. We can continue this tomorrow, with lawyers present and proper arrangements made. Leonardo nodded slowly, never taking his eyes off his son, because regardless of blood, that's what Miguel was. Clara, take him back to bed, please. As Clara led Miguel away, she heard Elisa's broken whisper. Let me say goodnight to him. Please. No, Leonardo's voice was final. You've lost that right. Tomorrow we'll discuss arrangements through our lawyers. Tonight, you need to leave. Clara paused at the top of the stairs, watching as her father's world completed its collapse. But even as everything fell apart, she felt a strange sense of peace. The truth was out now, painful as it was. Whatever came next, at least they would face it honestly. In Miguel's room, she tucked him back into bed. His innocent questions, about the arguing adults already forgotten in his sleepy haze. As she kissed his forehead, she made him a silent promise. No matter what happened next, she would make sure he always knew he was loved. Truly, honestly, and unconditionally. The morning after Elisa's departure dawned cold and gray over Greenwich. Clara woke early to find her father sitting in the kitchen, still wearing yesterday's clothes, staring into an untouched cup of coffee. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, suggesting he hadn't slept at all. Did she leave? Clara asked softly, sliding onto a stool beside him. Leonardo nodded, his voice rough. Around midnight, Rebecca's associate is having her followed to make sure she doesn't try to. He couldn't finish the sentence, the fear of Elisa attempting to take Miguel still too raw. He's still sleeping, Clara offered, knowing her father's thoughts. I checked on him before coming down. Leonardo's hands tightened around his coffee cup. How do I tell him, Clara? How do I explain to a 3-year-old that his mother... He trailed off, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task ahead. Before Clara could respond, Louise, Miguel's nanny, arrived for her usual morning shift. She paused in the doorway, sensing the tension. Mr. Mendonça, is everything all right? Mrs. Foster's car isn't in the driveway. Louise? Leonardo straightened, his business instincts taking over. We need to talk. There are going to be some changes. While Leonardo took Louise into his study to explain the situation, Clara began, preparing Miguel's favorite breakfast, dinosaur-shaped pancakes with chocolate chips for eyes. She needed to keep things as normal as possible for her little brother, even as their world shifted beneath their feet. The house phone rang, startling her. She answered it to find Rebecca on the line. Clara, put your father on, please. It's urgent. He's talking to Louise right now. What's wrong? A heavy pause. Elisa's been busy. She's already contacted several media outlets threatening to expose what she calls Leonardo Mendonça's abuse of power and attempt to steal her child. She's spinning quite a story. Clara's stomach dropped. But we have proof of what she did. Yes, but she's playing the victim card skillfully. Single mother, powerful businessman, custody battle. It's catnip for certain types of journalists. We need to get ahead of this. Leonardo emerged from his study looking even more exhausted. Clara handed him the phone wordlessly, watching his face darken as Rebecca explained the situation. Get our PR team on it, he ordered, and call Richard Carlton in Las Vegas. If he's willing to go on record about what she did to him. He stopped as Miguel's voice drifted down from upstairs. Daddy? Clara? Where's Mommy? Leonardo covered the phone's mouthpiece, looking at Clara with panic in his eyes. Clara squeezed his arm reassuringly. "I'll go. Take care of the PR stuff." Upstairs, she found Miguel sitting in his bed, lower lip trembling. "Mommy always helps me pick my clothes." Clara sat beside him, pulling him into a hug. "How about we pick them together today? We can choose your favorite superhero shirt." As she helped Miguel dress, Clara's phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. Her social media feeds were already filling with speculation about her family. News traveled fast in Greenwich's wealthy circles, and Elisa had clearly wasted no time spreading her version of events. "Clara?" Miguel's small voice pulled her attention back. "Is Mommy mad at us?" The innocent question broke her heart. "Nobody. Mommy just needs some time away right now. But you know what? You have me and Daddy and Louise, and we all love you so much." Downstairs, they found Leonardo ending his call with Rebecca. Louise was preparing Miguel's breakfast, maintaining an admirable facade of normalcy. "The vultures are circling," Leonardo muttered to Clara as Miguel settled at the table. "Rebecca's calling an emergency hearing for this afternoon. We need to establish legal custody before Elisa tries anything else." "What about school?" Clara asked. "Everyone's already talking." Leonardo ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Take the day off. I want you both here where I can see you." Throughout the morning, their phones kept ringing. Leonardo's business associates, social connections, even Clara's friends' parents. Everyone wanted details about the scandal brewing in the Mendonça household. Around noon, Rebecca arrived with another woman, Dr. Helena Martinez, a child psychologist specializing in family trauma. "We need to be very careful how we handle this with Miguel," Dr. Martinez explained, watching the little boy play with his trains in the family room. "At his age, he doesn't fully understand the concept of biological parentage. What he needs most right now is stability and reassurance." "But we can't lie to him," Clara insisted. "Isn't that what got us into this mess?" Dr. Martinez smiled, gently. "There's a difference between lying and presenting truth in an age-appropriate way. Right now, Miguel needs to know 3 things. He is loved, he is safe, and none of this is his fault." Leonardo nodded, but his attention was drawn to the TV news playing silently in the background. Elisa's face filled the screen, tears streaming, as she spoke to reporters outside a courthouse. Rebecca quickly changed the channel. "She's playing this perfectly," she admitted grudgingly. "The tearful mother fighting to keep her child. We need to be very careful how we respond." "I don't care about public opinion," Leonardo snapped. "I care about protecting my son." "Your son?" A bitter voice came from the doorway. They turned, to find Thomas Foster, Elisa's father, standing there with a court officer. "Mr. Foster," Rebecca stepped forward. "This is private property." "Nothing's private anymore," Thomas spat. "Not since you people decided to destroy my daughter's life." He thrust a paper at Leonardo. "We're seeking emergency custody of our grandson." Leonardo's face went white with fury. "You have no right." "I have every right," Thomas shouted. "That boy is my blood." "My daughter made mistakes, but she doesn't deserve to lose her child to some rich man's vendetta." Miguel's scared cry cut through the tension. Clara rushed to him, covering his ears as the adults' voices rose. "Get out," Leonardo commanded. "Any communication goes through our lawyers." "This isn't over," Thomas warned as the court officer urged him toward the door. "That boy belongs with his real family." After they left, Leonardo collapsed onto the couch, head in his hands. "How did everything fall apart so fast?" Dr. Martinez spoke up. "This is exactly why we need a stable, unified front. Miguel is picking up on all this tension. He needs his remaining family strong and focused on his well-being." Clara sat beside her father, Miguel clinging to her like a lifeline. "We're stronger together," she reminded him. "Mom always said that." Leonardo looked at his children, one by blood, one by choice, both equally his. "Rebecca, what's our next move?" "The emergency hearing is in 3 hours. The judge will want to establish temporary custody arrangements." Rebecca checked her phone. "And I've just heard from my contact in Boston. David Manning is willing to testify about Elisa's history of fraud. What about Miguel's biological father? Clara asked. Could he cause problems? My investigator is tracking him down, Rebecca assured them. But given that he signed away his rights before Miguel was born, he'd have a hard time claiming them now. Dr. Martinez interrupted gently. While the legal issues are important right now, Miguel needs routine. Perhaps we could focus on lunch, normal activities? Clara seized on this practical suggestion. Hey, Miguel, want to help me make your, special space rocket sandwich? As she led Miguel to the kitchen, she heard the adults continuing their strategic discussion. Outside, reporters had begun gathering at the estate's gates. Their world had become a fishbowl overnight, but Clara was determined to maintain a bubble of normalcy for her brother. In the kitchen, she helped Miguel arrange cucumber slices like rocket boosters on his sandwich, making whooshing noises that drew giggles from him. For a moment, he was just a happy 3-year-old again, untouched by the adult chaos swirling around him. Clara? He asked as she cut the sandwich into triangles. Are we still a family? She hugged him close, feeling his small heart beating against hers. Always, buddy. Different than before maybe, but always a family. Through the window, she could see dark clouds gathering, promising more rain. A storm was coming, both, literally and figuratively. But they would weather it together, protecting what mattered most, the love that had made them a family in the first place, regardless of blood or biology. As if reading her thoughts, Leonardo appeared in the doorway, freshly showered and changed. He wore the determined expression Clara recognized from major business deals. Ready for lunch, troops? We've got a big afternoon ahead. Clara nodded, understanding the double meaning. They were going to fight. For Miguel, for their family, for the truth. And this time, they would do it together. The Greenwich County Courthouse loomed before them, its granite steps crowded with reporters and photographers. Leonardo gripped Clara's hand tightly as they pushed through the media gauntlet, Rebecca leading the way while their security team formed a protective barrier around them. Mr. Mendonça, is it true Elisa Foster falsified Miguel's birth certificate? Clara, how long did you know about your stepmother's deception? Any comment on the allegations of psychological abuse? The questions flew like arrows, but they pressed forward, heads down. Louise had stayed home with Miguel, transforming his playroom into a fortress of fun to distract him from the chaos. Clara's phone buzzed in her pocket, probably another update from the nanny about her brother's activities. Inside the courthouse, Rebecca guided them to a private conference room. The hearing's in 30 minutes. Leo, remember what we discussed. Stay calm no matter what Elisa or her family says. Clara, you'll wait here with my assistant. But I want to testify, Clara protested. I'm the one who discovered exactly why they'll try to paint you. As a vindictive stepdaughter, Rebecca cut her off gently. We need to protect you from their attacks. Before Clara could argue further, the conference room door opened. Richard Carlton, Elisa's former target from Las Vegas, entered with his lawyer. The real estate developer looked exactly like his photos. Tall, distinguished, and carrying the same haunted look Clara had seen in her father's eyes. Leonardo, Carlton extended his hand. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. Thank you for coming, Leonardo replied, shaking his hand firmly. Your testimony could make all the difference. Carlton's face hardened. When Rebecca told me Elisa had done it again, and with a child this time, I had to help. She nearly destroyed my life, but at least I discovered the truth before. Before she trapped you completely, Leonardo finished, like she did to me. The difference is you actually love Miguel, Carlton observed. I can see it in your eyes. That's what makes her actions even more despicable this time. A knock at the door announced David Manning's arrival from Boston. The software entrepreneur looked younger than Carlton, but just as determined. My daughter still asks about Elisa sometimes, he said without preamble, even though she was only with us for 8 months. The weight of Elisa's pattern of destruction hung heavy in the room. Clara watched these successful, powerful men brought low by the same woman who had nearly destroyed their family. but something kept nagging at her. "Did she ever mention Miguel's real father?" she asked suddenly. "To either of you?" Both. Men shook their heads, but Manning added, "She was already pregnant when she came to me. Said it was from a previous relationship that ended badly. I believed her, just like I believed everything else she said." Rebecca's assistant appeared at the door. "They're ready for us." Clara hugged her father tightly. "Remember what Mom always said? The truth is bulletproof." Leonardo kissed the top of her head, then followed Rebecca toward the courtroom. Through the conference room window, Clara watched Elisa arrive with her father and their lawyers. Elisa had transformed herself again. Gone were the designer, clothes and perfect makeup, replaced by a modest dress and minimal cosmetics. She looked every bit the wronged mother she was pretending to be. Unable to sit still, Clara paced the conference room, checking her phone periodically for updates from Louise. Miguel was apparently having a grand time building a massive blanket fort, blissfully unaware that his fate was being decided several miles away. The hours crawled by. Rebecca's assistant brought lunch, but Clara couldn't eat. She scrolled through social media, seeing hashtags about her family trending. Opinion seemed divided. Some sympathized with Elisa's tears on television, while others were appalled by her history of deception. Finally, around mid-afternoon, Leonardo returned. His face was unreadable. "Dad?" Clara jumped up. "What happened?" "The judge granted us temporary full custody," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Elisa and her family can't come within 500 feet of Miguel pending a full investigation and final custody hearing." Clara threw her arms around him. "That's good news, right?" "It's a start," Rebecca interjected, entering with her briefcase. "But Elisa's lawyer is pushing for supervised visitation. They're arguing that regardless of her deceptions, she's still Miguel's biological mother." "She gave up that right when she used him as a prop in her con," Leonardo growled. "The judge seems to agree," Rebecca assured him. "But we need to prepare for a longer battle. They're requesting psychological evaluations for everyone, including Clara." Clara straightened her shoulders. "I'll do whatever it takes." "There's something else," Leonardo said quietly. Rebecca's investigator found Miguel's biological father. The room went still. Clara's heart pounded. "Where is he?" "San Diego," Rebecca answered. "His name is Daniel Wright. He's a surfing instructor, owns a small beach shop, never married, no other children." "Does he know about Miguel?" Clara whispered. "He knew Elisa was pregnant," Rebecca confirmed. "She told him she'd lost the baby. He never questioned it. Said she disappeared right after telling him and he assumed she wanted a clean break." Leonardo sank into a chair. "What if he wants to claim his rights now?" "He can try," Rebecca said firmly. "But he signed them away before Miguel was born. More importantly, he abandoned Elisa during her pregnancy. No judge will look favorably on that." A commotion in the hallway drew their attention. Through the glass, they saw Elisa engaged in what appeared to be a heated argument with her father. "I won't do it," she was saying. "He's my son." "Be realistic, girl," Thomas Foster shot back. "You've lost the upper hand. If you want any chance of access to Miguel, you need to play this smart." Clara couldn't hear Elisa's response, but her father's next words carried clearly. "Then you'll lose him completely. Is that what you want?" Elisa's face crumpled. For a moment, Clara caught a glimpse of real pain beneath the manipulations, a mother facing the loss of her child regardless of how she'd acquired him. "We should go," Rebecca urged. "Louise needs to get home to her own family, and Miguel will want to see you." They exited through a back entrance, avoiding the media still camped out front. In the car, Clara leaned against her father's shoulder, emotionally drained. "Do you think she really loves him?" she asked quietly. "Miguel, I mean." Leonardo was silent for a long moment. "I think she loves him the only way she knows how. But love isn't enough. He needs stability, honesty, a family he can trust." "He has that," Clara assured him. "He has us." At home, they found Miguel charging around his blanket fort in a cape, playing superhero. His face lit up when he saw them. "Daddy!" Clara, look what I built. Leonardo scooped him up, holding him close. It's amazing, buddy. You've been busy. Louise helped, Miguel confided, but I did the secret entrance all by myself. Clara watched them together, her father and the little boy who had stolen both their hearts. Biology didn't matter. Love had made them family, and love would see them through whatever challenges lay ahead. Later, after Miguel was asleep, Clara found Leonardo in his study, staring at a photo of their original family. Him, Mariana, and a much younger Clara. Mom would be proud of you, she said softly, for fighting for Miguel, for choosing love over anger. I keep thinking about what she'd say, Leonardo admitted, about all of this. She'd say what she always said. That family isn't about blood. It's about choice. We choose to love each other, choose to stand by each other, choose to be honest with each other. Leonardo pulled her into a hug. When did you get so wise? I had good teachers, Clara smiled. Then more seriously, what happens now? Now we prepare for a fight, Leonardo said firmly. Because Miguel deserves parents who will fight for him the right way, with truth and love, not manipulation and lies. Outside, the reporters still camped at their gates were visible through the study window, their camera flashes like distant lightning. The storm wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But they would weather it together, bound by something stronger than blood, the choice to be family. The morning sun glinted off the waves at La Jolla Beach as Daniel Wright waxed a surfboard outside his small shop. His peaceful routine shattered when a black SUV pulled into the empty parking lot, its tinted windows reflecting the early California light. 2,000 miles away, Clara sat in Rebecca's office, watching the video feed from Rebecca's investigator. The surfer looked nothing like Miguel, his blonde hair and blue eyes a stark contrast to her brother's dark features. He's been watching the news coverage, Rebecca explained, turning off the feed. When my investigator approached him, he already knew why we were there. Leonardo leaned forward in his chair. And? He wants to meet Miguel. Rebecca held up a hand as both Leonardo and Clara started to protest. Not immediately. He understands the complexity of the situation, but he's requested a DNA test and the opportunity to know his biological son. He gave up that right, Clara argued. He abandoned them. According to him, Elisa vanished before he could make things right, Rebecca countered. He has documentation, showing he tried to find her, hired a private investigator of his own. Leonardo ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Clara recognized as mounting stress. Could this hurt our case against Elisa? Actually, it might help, Rebecca said thoughtfully. Daniel's testimony about Elisa's disappearance and deception adds to our pattern of evidence. Plus, he's willing to support your custody claim. Clara blinked in surprise. He is? His exact words were, that kid needs stability, not a mom who treats him like a prop in her cons. He's angry at Elisa, not us. Before they could discuss further, Rebecca's assistant burst in. You need to see this. She turned on the office television, where Elisa was giving another interview. But this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her sat a distinguished-looking man, Clara recognized from her mother's old photos. William Chen, Rebecca's ex-husband and one of Connecticut's most aggressive custody lawyers. My client has made mistakes, William was saying smoothly, but her love for her son is genuine. The question we should be asking is why Mr. Mendonça is so desperate to deny a child access to his biological mother. Rebecca's face hardened. That manipulative little, she knew exactly what she was doing hiring him. Will this be a problem? Leonardo asked quietly. William's good, Rebecca admitted. Very good, and he knows how to play to public sympathy. The interview continued, with Elisa tearfully describing how she'd fled an abusive relationship in California, seeking safety for her unborn child. The interviewer ate it up, shooting concerned glances at the camera. She's lying, Clara exploded. Daniel Wright isn't abusive. We just saw him. Doesn't matter, Rebecca said grimly. The narrative is out there now. Williams playing this perfectly, painting Elisa as a desperate mother protecting her child, and us as the wealthy family using our power to separate them. Leonardo's phone buzzed. A text from Louise. Miguel was asking why he couldn't watch TV anymore. They'd blocked all news channels at home, trying to shield him from the media circus, but he was starting to notice something was wrong. We need to get ahead of this, Rebecca decided. Leo, I want you to do one carefully controlled interview. Show the public the real story. A father protecting his son from a woman who's used children as pawns in her cons before. No, Leonardo said firmly. I won't put our family drama on display. Miguel deserves better than that. The drama's already on display, Rebecca argued. At least let us show your side. Clara's phone chimed with a news alert. Her stomach dropped as she read it. Guys, the Boston Herald just ran a story about Mom. What? Leonardo grabbed her phone. The article was brutal, suggesting that Mariana's death had been suspiciously timed, implying that Leonardo had moved on too quickly with Elisa, questioning whether Clara's current allegations stemmed from unresolved grief and jealousy. That's it, Leonardo stood abruptly. Rebecca, file whatever motions you need to. I want a gag order. I want Elisa's visitation requests denied. I want full custody immediately. Leo, slow down, Rebecca cautioned. We need to be strategic. They're attacking my dead wife. Leonardo's voice cracked. Using Mariana's memory to... Clara moved to her father's side, taking his hand. She understood his rage. The article had made her physically ill. But they couldn't let anger drive their decisions, not with Miguel's future at stake. Dad, she said softly. What would Mom say right now? Leonardo deflated slightly. She'd say we need to be smarter than them. Better than them. Exactly. Clara squeezed his hand. So, let's be smart. Rebecca nodded approvingly. I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. What is it? We bring in Daniel Wright, not just as a witness, but as an ally. Show that Miguel's biological father supports your custody claim. It completely undermines Elisa's narrative about fleeing abuse. Clara watched her father wrestle with the suggestion. Bringing in Miguel's biological father was risky. What if he changed his mind about supporting them? What if Miguel grew attached to him? But the alternative was letting Elisa and William Chen control the story. Set it up, Leonardo decided finally. But we do this carefully. Miguel's welfare comes first. Always, Rebecca agreed. In the meantime, we need to deal with the press camping outside your house. I'm having security increased, and I suggest pulling Clara from school temporarily. No way, Clara protested. I'm not hiding. Sweetheart, Leonardo began. But Clara cut him off. Miguel needs normalcy right now. If I suddenly disappear from school, he'll know something's really wrong. Besides, my friends have my back. It was true. Clara's closest friends had formed a protective barrier around her at school, shutting down gossip and blocking reporters who tried to approach her. Her soccer team had even worn Family is Love headbands at their last game, a silent show of support that had made her cry. She's right, Rebecca conceded. But we need to prepare for William's next move. He's going to request a psychological evaluation of your whole family. Let him, Clara said firmly. We have nothing to hide. Leonardo's phone buzzed again. Another text from Louise. Miguel was asking when Mommy was coming home. The question hung heavy in the air. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that his mother had used him as a pawn in an elaborate con? That the woman who tucked him in every night had built their entire relationship on lies? I should get home, Leonardo said quietly. He needs me there. We'll reconvene tomorrow, Rebecca agreed. My investigator is flying Daniel Wright in next week. That gives us time to prepare Miguel for meeting him. If he agrees to meet him, Clara pointed out, we're not forcing Miguel to do anything. He doesn't want to do. Leonardo smiled proudly at his daughter. No, we're not. We're going to be honest with him, age appropriately, and let him have a voice in decisions that affect his life. As they left Rebecca's office, Clara caught a glimpse of the ongoing TV interview. Elisa was crying again, William Chen's arm around her supportively as she begged for access to my baby boy. The performance made Clara's blood boil, but she forced herself to stay calm. They had truth on their side. They had love on their side. And soon they'd have Miguel's biological father confirming Elisa's lies. The tide was turning. They just had to stay strong enough to ride out the storm. In the car, Clara's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Her heart stopped when she read it. "Tell your father to drop this fight, or everyone will learn what really happened the night your mother died." Clara stared at the message, her hands shaking. What did Elisa know about her mother's death? Or was this just another manipulation, another lie to add to the pile? She glanced at her father, focused on driving through the media gauntlet outside Rebecca's office. Should she show him the text? Or would it only add to his burden? The weight of secrets pressed down on her once again. But this time, she wasn't carrying them alone. Whatever Elisa was implying about her mother's death, they would face it together, as a family. Clara stared at her laptop screen in her darkened bedroom, the threatening text message from Elisa glowing ominously on her phone beside her. For 3 days she'd carried the weight of that threat, unsure whether to share it with her father. Now, at 2 a.m, she was deep in research about her mother's accident. The official report was straightforward. Mariana Mendonca's car had skidded on a rainy night, crashing into a guardrail on the Merritt Parkway. She'd died instantly. But something about Elisa's text gnawed at Clara's conscience. What could she possibly know? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Clara," Leonardo's voice came through the door. "I saw your light under the door, can't sleep?" She quickly closed the browser tabs about her mother's accident. "Come in, Dad." Leonardo entered, looking as exhausted as she felt. He'd spent the day in preparation meetings with Rebecca, getting ready for Daniel Wright's arrival tomorrow. "What's keeping you up, sweetheart?" Clara's fingers brushed her phone, considering whether to show him the text. Instead, she asked, "Dad, what do you remember about the night Mom died?" Leonardo sank onto her bed, surprise and pain flickering across his face. "Why are you asking about that now?" "Just thinking about her a lot lately." Clara hedged. "You were at a business dinner, right?" "Yes, with the merger team." Leonardo's voice grew distant with memory. "Your mother was supposed to join us, but she had a headache. She decided to drive home early from her volunteer work at the hospital." "The hospital where Elisa worked as a temp?" The question slipped out before Clara could stop it. Leonardo's head snapped up. "What are you talking about? Elisa didn't work there." Clara's heart began to race. "But she did. I found her old employee records online. She was a temporary administrative assistant in the same ward where Mom volunteered." The color drained from Leonardo's face. "That's not possible. She came to the company 6 months after—" 3 weeks, Clara corrected quietly. "She started at your company 3 weeks after Mom died. But she'd been at the hospital for 2 months before that." Leonardo stood abruptly, pacing the room. "Show me." Clara pulled up the hospital's archived staff newsletter on her laptop. There, in a grainy photo of the volunteer appreciation, lunch was Mariana, and in the background unmistakably stood Elisa. "She knew Mom," Clara whispered. "She lied about that. What else did she lie about?" Leonardo's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. Despite the late hour, Rebecca answered on the second ring. "We need your investigator," Leonardo said without preamble. "Now. There's something about Mariana's accident." Within an hour, Rebecca arrived with her investigator, Michael Drake. They gathered in Leonardo's study, surrounded by old case, files and hospital records Clara had uncovered in her late-night research. "Elisa sent Clara a threatening text," Leonardo explained, his voice tight with controlled rage. Clara had finally shown him the message, implying she knows something about Mariana's death. And now we find out she knew Mariana worked at the same hospital. "This changes everything," Rebecca said grimly. Michael, I want every second of that night reconstructed. Hospital security footage, traffic cameras, witness statements, everything. Already on it, Drake typed rapidly on his laptop. But here's something interesting. Elisa's personnel file shows she called in sick the day after Mrs. Mendonca's accident. Didn't return to work for a week. Could be coincidence, Rebecca cautioned, but her expression was troubled. There's more, Clara spoke up. She pulled up another document. Mom's last text to Dad that night. Look at the timestamp. Leonardo leaned in. 8:47 p.m. Heading home early, bad headache. But the hospital sign-out log shows she left at 9:30, Clara pointed out. What was she doing for those 45 minutes? Drake's fingers flew over his keyboard. Hospital security cameras from that night were corrupted. Technical malfunction, apparently. Convenient, Rebecca muttered. A small sound from the doorway made them all turn. Miguel stood there in his pajamas, clutching his bear. I had a bad dream. The adults quickly shifted gears, Drake closing his laptop as Leonardo went to scoop up his son. Want to tell me about it, buddy? Miguel buried his face in Leonardo's neck. I dreamed Mommy was crying. She said she had to go away forever. Clara watched her father's face crumple slightly. How much had Miguel picked up on? How much did his subconscious understand about the upheaval in his life? Remember what we talked about? Clara moved to join them. Sometimes grown-ups need to spend time apart to figure things out. But Dad and I are here and we love you so much. Forever and ever? Miguel asked in a small voice. Forever and ever, Leonardo confirmed. No matter what. After Leonardo took Miguel back to bed, Rebecca turned to Clara. We need to move carefully here. If Elisa had anything to do with your mother's accident, she'll be desperate. Clara finished. More dangerous than ever. Exactly. Which is why we need solid proof before making any accusations. Rebecca gathered her files. Michael will work through the night. We should have preliminary findings by morning. Before Daniel. Wright arrives, Clara remembered. Dad, should we postpone? Leonardo returned, looking drained. No, we stick to the plan. Miguel needs stability right now, and resolving the custody situation is part of that. Speaking of custody, Rebecca interjected, William Chen filed an emergency motion this morning. He's requesting immediate supervised visitation for Elisa, claiming parental alienation. Parental alienation? Leonardo's voice rose. She's the one who… Leo, Rebecca cut him off. Stay focused. If Elisa really knows something about Mariana's death, this custody battle just became much more complicated. We need to handle this delicately. Clara's phone buzzed, another text from the unknown number. Time's running out. Drop the custody case, or everyone learns the truth, including Miguel. She showed it to the others. Leonardo's face hardened. She's bluffing, she has to be. Maybe, Rebecca said slowly. But what if she's not? What if she really knows something about that night? Drake's laptop chimed. He pulled up a traffic camera photo, grainy but clear, enough to show Mariana's car at an intersection near the hospital. The timestamp read 9:27 p.m. Look at the passenger seat, he said quietly. They leaned in. There, barely visible through the rain-streaked window, was a second figure in Mariana's car. Enhancement software will take a few hours, Drake explained. But based on the hair color and build, it's Elisa, Clara breathed. Mom wasn't alone that night. The implications hung heavy in the air. Leonardo gripped the back of his chair, knuckles white. If she was in that car and if she had anything to do with… We need proof, Rebecca said firmly. Hard evidence, not just speculation. Michael, keep digging. Clara, forward those texts to my investigator. Leo, try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be challenging enough with Daniel Wright's arrival. But sleep seemed impossible now. As Rebecca and Drake packed up their files, Clara caught her father staring at Mariana's photo on his desk. The weight of these new questions pressed down on them all. What really happened that rainy night? Why had Elisa hidden her connection to Mariana? And most importantly, how far would she go to keep her secrets buried? In his room, Miguel had finally drifted back to sleep, innocent and unaware of the storm gathering around him. Clara watched him from the doorway, making a silent promise. Whatever truth they uncovered about her mother's death, she would protect her little brother from the fallout. Tomorrow would bring Daniel Wright in a new chapter in their saga. But now they were also racing against time, trying to uncover the truth about that tragic night before Elisa could use it as a weapon against them. The rain that had started earlier grew heavier, drumming against the windows. Somewhere out there, Elisa was waiting, holding her secrets close. But Clara had learned from experience the truth, no matter how painful, had a way of coming to light. The only question was, would their family survive the revelation? The morning Daniel Wright was scheduled to arrive, Drake called with the enhanced traffic camera footage. His voice was urgent. "You need to see this now." In Rebecca's office, they gathered around the high-resolution images. The figure in Mariana's passenger seat was indeed Elisa, but something about her posture seemed off. She appeared to be slumped against the window, one hand pressed to her head. "Pull up the hospital records again," Rebecca instructed. Clara quickly retrieved the files she'd discovered during her late-night research. "There," Leonardo pointed. "Elisa checked into the ER that night 2 hours after the accident. Severe migraine and confusion." "She was a patient?" Clara asked, puzzled. "Not just an employee?" Drake nodded, pulling up more documents. According to the medical records, both Mariana and Elisa suffered from chronic migraines. They were part of the same support group at the hospital. The pieces started falling into place. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. Mom was giving her a ride home. Because they both had headaches that night, Leonardo realized, his voice thick with emotion. Mariana wouldn't have let her drive alone in that condition. Rebecca's phone buzzed, a text from the courthouse. William Chen just withdrew all of Elisa's custody motions. Before they could process this development, Rebecca's assistant burst in. "Mrs. Foster is here. She's asking to speak with all of you." They exchanged glances. Finally, Leonardo nodded. "Let her in." Elisa entered alone, without her lawyer or her father. She looked different, stripped of makeup, dark circles under her eyes, wearing simple jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. "I remember now," she said quietly. "About that night." The room went still. Clara felt her father tense beside her. "The migraines affected my memory," Elisa continued. "The doctors said it was common with severe episodes. But seeing those traffic photo, it brought it all back." She sank into a chair, looking smaller somehow. "Mariana was so kind to me. I was new in town, struggling with my condition. She noticed me in the support group, took me under her wing. That night we both had attacks during the volunteer meeting. She insisted on driving me home before heading back to your dinner, Leo." Tears slid down her face. "The last thing I remember is her voice, so gentle, telling me to rest my eyes, then screeching tires, the guardrail. I woke up in the hospital 2 days later, when they told me she was gone." "Why didn't you tell us?" Leonardo's voice cracked. "All these years?" "Because I killed her," Elisa burst out. "If she hadn't been driving me home, she would have gone straight to your dinner. She would still be alive." Clara found her voice. "Is that why you came to work for Dad? Guilt?" Elisa wiped her eyes. "At first, I wanted to make amends somehow, help take care of the family she left behind. But then I saw how good Leo was with children, how much love he had to give." She broke off, shoulders shaking. "And Miguel's father?" Rebecca pressed. "Daniel Wright? A brief relationship before I came to Greenwich. When I discovered I was pregnant, I was already working for Leo. I saw how he was drowning in grief, how Clara needed a mother figure. I convinced myself I was helping everyone by creating a perfect family." "By lying?" Clara challenged. "By using my brother as a prop? I love Miguel. Elisa said fiercely. That was never a lie. But you're right. I used him. Used all of you. Trying to fill this hole inside me. Creating families to replace the one I destroyed. Leonardo stood abruptly, pacing the room. The other men, in Boston and Las Vegas. More attempts to build something to make up for what I'd taken away, Elisa admitted. But it never worked. The guilt always caught up with me. A knock at the door announced Daniel Wright's arrival. He entered wearing pressed khakis and a button-down shirt. A far cry from the casual surfer they'd seen on video, his eyes locked immediately on Elisa. Danny, she whispered. Hello, Elizabeth, he said quietly, using her original name. Or is it Elisa now? The next hour was a blur of painful confessions and revelations. Daniel described how he'd tried to find Elisa after she disappeared, worried about her and their unborn child. Elisa explained her pattern of running away, using Miguel to create the perfect family she thought would fill the void left by Mariana's death. I'm not here to disrupt Miguel's life, Daniel assured them. After talking with Rebecca, I agree he needs stability. I'd like to know him eventually, but only if he wants to, and only as part of his extended family, not as a replacement for the father he knows and loves. Leonardo studied the younger man. You'd support my adoption of Miguel? 100%, Daniel nodded. That kid hit the lottery with you and Clara. I just want the chance to be part of his life in whatever way is healthy for him. Elisa's sob drew their attention. I don't deserve any of you. The way I've manipulated everyone. No, Clara said firmly. You don't deserve us. But Miguel deserves to know his mother, his real mother, not the person you were pretending to be. If you're willing to be honest from now on to get help for your guilt and your compulsion, I've already started therapy, Elisa interjected. After William Chen withdrew from the case, I realized I needed to face the truth. About everything. Rebecca had been taking notes throughout the conversation. Now she spoke up. Here's what I propose. Leo maintains full custody and proceeds with Miguel's adoption. Elisa agrees to continued therapy and supervised visitation, gradually increasing if she maintains honesty and stability. Daniel gets reasonable visitation rights as Miguel's biological father, implemented slowly and carefully with the guidance of Dr. Martinez. And the truth about Mom? Clara asked. About that night? I'll make a full statement to the police, Elisa said quietly. Clear the record about the accident. Mariana died trying to help someone in need, that's who she was. Her memory deserves the truth. Leonardo cleared his throat. Speaking of truth, Miguel's been asking questions. He deserves answers, age-appropriate ones, about his family. All of his family, Daniel added. Blood and chosen. They spent the next hour with Dr. Martinez, crafting a plan to help Miguel understand his complex family situation. The child psychologist emphasized honesty, stability, and reassurance that he was loved by many people. When they finally headed home, Clara felt lighter despite the emotional weight of the day. In the car, she turned to her father. Do you think Mom would approve of all of this? Leonardo smiled sadly. Your mother believed in second chances, in redemption. But most of all, she believed in love. All kinds of love, not just the traditional family kind. At home, they found Miguel teaching Louise to play his favorite dinosaur game. His face lit up when he saw them. Daddy, Clara, want to play? Louise isn't very good at being a T-Rex. Clara watched her father scoop up his son, because that's what Miguel was, regardless of biology or legal documents. She thought about the extended family they were building. Herself, Leonardo, Miguel, and now possibly Daniel as a friendly presence in his life. Even Elisa, if she continued her journey toward honesty and healing. It wasn't traditional. It wasn't what any of them had expected, but maybe that was okay. Maybe family wasn't about matching DNA or perfect stories. Maybe it was about choice. Choosing to love, choosing to forgive, choosing to be honest, even when the truth was painful. Later that night, Clara stood in front of her mother's photo. We're okay, Mom, she whispered. Different than before, but okay. I think I think you'd be proud of how we've grown." The truth had indeed set them free. Free to build something new, something honest, something built on love rather than lies. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in the end, that's what family was all about. Miguel's laughter floated up from downstairs, where Leonardo was probably letting him stay up too late again. Clara smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adjustments, new steps in their journey together. But they would face it as a family, a real family, bound by love, truth, and the choice to stand by each other no matter what. And really, that was the greatest gift her mother could have left them. The knowledge that family wasn't about perfection. It was about love, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms. What would you do if you discovered a life-changing secret about someone you love? Would you expose the truth immediately, or like Clara, would you carefully consider the impact on your family first? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.